Hi, I'm Bob, and welcome to Between the Sheets, where we look at Microsoft Excel and related technologies. If you have a lot of data to add up, typically transactional data, and you want subtotals for a particular category, Excel does a great job of doing it automatically. Even better, you don't have to write any formulas, the feature works the same in the Windows and Mac editions, and it's been around long enough that any version of Excel you have will do it. But wait, there's more. Even though these are called subtotals, you aren't restricted to addition. You can get automatic averages and other calculations too. One more bonus. This is a good opportunity to show you how to use the text function to extract month names from dates. So let's take a look, see how it works. Here's a worksheet with transactional data. These are individual orders for products, and we can get subtotals by several categories, by variety, by state, and since the orders are all in the same year, we can get subtotals by month. The first thing you have to do is decide which category you want subtotals by, and sort by that category. So let's start with variety. So if I want subtotals by variety, I'm just going to click somewhere in that variety column, and then I'm on the Home tab of the ribbon bar here, and I'm going to go over to where it says Sort and Filter, and under Sort and Filter, I'm going to choose Sort A to Z. So now you can see we have all the Blue Mountains grouped together, we have all Colombia, all the Ethiopia, and so on. Let me go back up to the top. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Data tab, and over on the right, there's Outline. Now on yours, Outline might be expanded. You may see all the options there on the ribbon bar. Because of this recording here, I have it a little squished, so I have to click it, but somewhere there under Outline, you'll find Subtotal. So I'm going to click that. So that gives me this dialog box. So you see over here where it says, at each change in. That really means, what do you want to get your subtotal by? So I'm going to click that drop down, and I'm going to choose Variety. What function do we want? Well, we want the sum function because we want to start off by getting subtotals, by adding stuff. Then it says, okay, well, what do you want to get subtotals of? Let me move this out of the way here. So I've got three columns with numbers. Price per pound doesn't make any sense to add that up, but I can get subtotals of pounds and subtotals of sale amount. Sale amount is already selected, so I'm going to add pounds to that. These three options, just ignore them for now. The first time you run subtotals on a particular sheet, it doesn't really matter. So that's it. I'm going to click OK. And now it gives us subtotals. So let's scroll down a little bit so I can see there's all the Blue Mountain. And at the bottom of Blue Mountain, I have the Blue Mountain total. And at the bottom of Columbia, I have the Columbia total. And for each variety, I have a total. Let's go to the very bottom. And after all of the variety totals, I have a grand total. You may have noticed on the left, we have these other symbols. Now, if you're not familiar with what these are, this is part of outlining and grouping. That's why it's under this outlining section there on the ribbon bar. So here's what's going on. Let's say, since I'm at the bottom, maybe I don't need to see all the detail for Sumatra. I want to see the summary total, but not the detail. So I'm going to click this minus sign, and that collapses it. So I can see the Sumatra total, but not any of the detail. Maybe I want to see the Kona detail, but let's scroll up and I want to hide the Java detail. So I click this little minus sign to the left of that, and that collapses it also. Now, if I want to collapse all of the detail, say I've got this 1, 2, and 3 up here, let me click that number 2. So that collapses all of the level 2 stuff. So I see all of the subtotals and I see the grand total. And you see any of these, I can click a plus sign and expand it. That turns to a minus sign. I can click the minus sign to collapse it again. And if I want to see only the grand total and not any of the subtotals or any of the detail, I can click that number 1, and that shows me the grand total. If I want to see all the detail, everything over again, I can click that 3, and that expands to the way it was originally. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned averages. So what if I want to see not just subtotals for every variety, but I want to see average number of pounds sold and average sale amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into Outline, I'm going to go back to Subtotal, so I'm right back to this dialog box. I'm going to stay here at each change in variety, but where it says what function do I want, I'm going to click that drop down. You see we have a choice of a few of them. I'm going to choose average. Now here's where these three checkboxes come into play. If I choose replace current subtotals, that means I won't see the subtotals, I will only see averages. So I want to make sure to deselect that. Page break, that's formatting, that's up to you. Doesn't really matter for this exercise. And I'm going to click OK. Let's scroll down again. And now I have the average of Blue Mountain in addition to the total of Blue Mountain. And for all of these varieties, I have average as well as total. And you notice that now we've got 4 levels of outline because created an additional outline there, and now we have additional minus signs. So like average here has, on this row, has its own minus sign. So I can click that minus sign if I want to collapse that. I can click the plus sign to expand it. Let's go all the way to the bottom again. And below the last variety, below Sumatra, I now have a grand average and a grand total. So if I click this 3 up here on the outline level, that collapses all the detail. So now I see average and subtotal for every variety, as well as average and total for the whole thing. If I click, that was the number 3. If I click that number 2, that hides all of the averages and shows me only the totals, but I still have the average and total for the whole thing. If I hit that number 1, now I see the average and the total for the whole thing. And once again, if I want to expand everything, see all of the detail, all of the averages, all of the subtotals, I can click that number 4, and we're right back to where it was originally. So let's go back up to the top. And if I decide that maybe I want to see the subtotal or the average by state, I could do that, or I could do by month. We were talking about that to begin with. To do either of those, I have to sort by one of those 2 columns. So I can't have subtotals of state simultaneously in this same worksheet as with the subtotal of variety. So what I have to do is remove the subtotals before I sort. Otherwise, it's just going to be a total mess. So I'm going to go back up to Outline and Subtotal, and down there in the lower left corner, I'm going to click Remove All. In a previous episode, I showed you how to use the text function to format numbers. So here's a practical example of how to use it. This works because Excel treats dates as numbers. So now we're back to where we were. And if I want to sort by state, I could go there, and since I'm already in the Data tab, I have this A to Z and Z to A, so I could do that. But we were talking about sorting by month and getting subtotals by month. So let's do that. First thing I want to do is insert a new column. So I'm going to right-click or double tap, however you're doing it with your hardware, on the header for column D and insert. And I'm going to go up there, and this is going to be my column for month. So here's where we do a little bit of calculation to extract that. Let me show you the syntax. So the syntax of the text function, we say equals text, and there are 2 arguments. The first argument is what number are we formatting, and the second argument is what do we want the format to be. So here's a simple example. Let's say in cell A5, I have the date July 4th, 2023. If I apply the text function to A5 and give it a format of 4 M's in double quotes, and this is real important. If you use this function, you have to put the format in double quotes. Otherwise, it's going to just give you an error, and we extract out of that the word July. Now, how are you supposed to know that it's 4 M's and nothing else? Here's a simple table. If I had used a single M, it would give me 7, right? Because July is the 7th month. If I said 2 M's, it would give me that leading 0. 3 M's would give me the standard abbreviation for July, and we used 4 M's, so that's why it spells it out. So this will work, of course, with all 12 months. Up there at the top of the month column, I'm going to say equals text, open up the parenthesis. There's the date that I want to format, comma, open up double quotes, 4 M's, close the quote, close the parenthesis, press enter, and you can see, yeah, that's February. So let's go there and autofill it. So when I'm on that cell, I put the mouse pointer on the autofill dot, that little heavy dot in the lower right corner. When the mouse pointer becomes a crosshair, I double click and it fills into the bottom. Now we got to sort it, but you want to be careful how you sort it, because if I'm on the month column and I sort, let's say A to Z, it sorts alphabetically because it sees text. So April comes up as the first month. That's really not very useful. So you want to click in the date column and then sort so that January comes up. So it's chronological, not alphabetical. Now we could go back to doing subtotals. So I'll go back to outline and subtotal. And this time where it says at each change in, I'm going to choose month. I'm going to go and use the sum function. Why it added to price per pound, I don't know, probably because we inserted that other column, so I'm going to clear that. And like before, I want subtotals of pounds and sale amount. And because it's the first instance of this on this worksheet, these three checkboxes don't really make a difference, so I'm going to click OK. And now, just like before when we were sorting by variety and subtotaling by variety, now we have total for January, subtotal for February, subtotal for all those months. Let's go down to the very bottom. And under December, we have the grand total for the entire year. And also, like before, I can collapse any of these individual months, or I can hit that number 2, and it works just the same way as we saw before. This is such a great feature, and few people even know it's here. And creating subtotals is a gateway to learning more complex summary features like lookups and pivot tables. So until next time, my name is Bob, and this has been Between the Sheets.